What is up, YouTube? It's the next day. Transmission, I got all the bolts out. Everything's good to go on that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to turn you guys around real quick, and we're going to pop this out, disassemble all of it because the top two bolts are a little bit stripped out on the aluminum. Not stripped, they thread in fine, but they're not biting as hard as I would like, and I don't need any of the transmission bolts backing out down the road. So we're going to yank those off, or yank the trapdoor out. All the gears and bearings will fall. I'll make a big mess with all of the greasy bearings. Pull all of those, get that cleaned up, drill 2 holes, oversized, helicoil, send it. Alright, so to pull the transmission, I don't have the seals or the gaskets on here yet. I'm going to do all that at the end. But this is floating, essentially. The 4 bolts on the trapdoor hold the trans in. So I'm going to take a dead blow, and I'm going to be tapping this to push this through. But I will set you guys up on the other side, over here. Something like that. I'm going to support the main shaft here, not cranking on this or jamming away. It shouldn't fight me that much coming out of here. But with a dead blow, just kind of tap that main shaft. Like so. Gently. And if you're super careful, you might get lucky and not lose all your gears and parts. Like that. Well, we lost a bunch of the bearings, we also lost the washer, and we lost the speedo drive gear. But overall, that's not too terrible. So make sure your spacers go back down in place. What did I lose here? Speedo drive. Did get hung up on the speedo drive a little bit there, which drops right back onto the counter shaft like so. And where am I going to put these bearings? Let's make a little bearing nest. Try not to lose any of them. I'll put the bolts and stuff on here too. So, all the bearings, all of the lower ones actually stayed in up here, which is fine. These ones down here on the bottom, man, somebody went way too crazy with assembly lube. That's going to be terrible to clean up after I start drilling in here. Oh well. A little heavy on the assembly lube, but better more than less, I think. Now, I do want to look at these upper sections. It actually looks like they are helicoiled already. So I think what I'm going to do is actually line this with a paper towel. Essentially, I'm just trying to keep some of the grease out, or the metal shavings from coming out. And let's move the trans back to the other bench. I'll show you guys what I'm looking at. So here, these have already been repaired. Focus. There's a helicoil in there. There's a helicoil in here. Maybe. It might just be thread sealer. Nope, that's definitely helicoiled. I don't know. Let me grab a pick and start poking around. Can't tell if this is actual helicoil material. JB Weld? Shit. These are the things you don't necessarily want to find. Kind of looks like these might just be JB welded. Which is a little disheartening. All right, let me grab a drill bit. I think this was actually JB welded. We'll find out here in a minute. So this is the oversized bit for a 5/16 helicoil. Yeah, I'm definitely going with this was JB welded, but we'll run the oversized bit through. Now, I need my tap and a tap tool. see if I remembered where I put that from last time. This is what happens when you don't clean up when you're done with things. It seems like a good idea at first, and then you actually need something and have no idea where all your stuff is. That's what I was looking for. It was underneath all my other crap on the table. Who would have thought? Can't find your tools when you put more tools on top of them. Now we're just going to cut new threads here for the bit. I'm actually very glad that this was not actually already drilled, because when you start pulling helicoils, you end up with bigger problems. But oddly enough, like I said, I ran thread chasers through all of these. The threads were actually in pretty good shape. Looking at this now, there's bits of aluminum, but every time I poked what looked like a helicoil, it was actually JB Weld. So somebody patched this in not a good way. And when I went to go actually torque these trapdoor bolts in, they threaded in okay, no issues there, but as soon as I put any torque on them, JB Weld snapped, or the JB Weld gave, and we lost traction. So they were just kind of free spinning in there. Even when I backed them out just now, like the end of the threads were still intact. So somebody probably did a quick fix. I don't know if this was mine. I would not want to ride this or beat on this knowing that the entire transmission is held in by epoxy, especially on a trans. These have enough difficulty staying together when everything's right. To heighten that, you got a bunch of rotating gears and parts and speedo drives and things that are already notorious for exploding, especially on these 900s, and make it worse. So we got some new threads in there. I'll blow that one out in a minute. I don't want to turn the compressor on yet. We spray this down with a little bit of oil. Quick little cleanup on the tap. Try and make it a little easier on myself. I don't really usually mind doing these types of repairs when it's clean. It's fresh aluminum. I just drilled a proper hole. The right size hole when you're tapping makes the biggest difference in the world. If you can look at this, I'm not fighting anything. Not a lot of resistance for fresh cut aluminum. If you're not at the right size, sharp tap obviously too, but if you got the wrong size wrong size hole drilled, you're going to be taking away way too much material if you're undersized. Too big, and you won't leave yourself enough material for the threads to actually grab and hold, which would put you in a situation like I'm dealing with right now. And on aluminum, they tend to cut pretty well. But this repair, I will be confident with. I just wish I knew this prior to going through and putting everything back together. This would have been much easier when I didn't have the trans in yesterday. But can't win them all. Sometimes you don't know. Okay, now, 2 holes. Let me grab some air. I'm going to blow this out off camera because it's loud. Thread inserts, 5/16 by 16. These are made to fit into your oversized threads. So here, this will thread right in. Should go smoothly since we just cut fresh threads on here. Put that in just past the lip. Let's see how far down I can get this. It's a little farther than I'd like, but I'm going to chain for the edge. Actually, let me do that first on the next one. Skip the step. I'm working quick. I do not have very much time today. Which always seems to work out in my favor. Countersink bit. But that will do. Now, let me thread this other one in first. So we're going to drop this in till it's below the face. Below that coil. Then we're going to take the punch, put this in, and give it a quick love tap to break the lower tang. Like so. So once the tang's broken off, that should keep this in place. I'm not going to refilm this entire transmission assembly, but I got the grease back in and the needle bearings back in. The only thing I didn't mention that I just remembered now, I did it yesterday, but I did not mention it in the video. When you're putting in your transmission, you got the little tang thrust washer right here. There is a little roll pin. Let's go back into the case. There's a little roll pin that gets pressed into the case here. Right up there at about, I don't know, 11 o'clock, just shy of 12. Right here. Make sure that when you put the transmission in, that wherever the location on the little thrust washer with the tang is not lined up this way. It's got to spin around so it rotates and it'll stop that. That's the stop for that thrust washer. If you put the thrust washer or transmission in with the thrust washer and it does bind up on this, your transmission will not fit in. So essentially just clock it so it's facing another direction. Keep it away from that little pin. So now I'm going to throw the trans back in and we'll re-snug up the exterior of the trans on the trapdoor and button up this transmission. Trapdoor is reinstalled. Shifter shaft is engaged, so if I reach around I can't turn the shifter shaft. Plenty of free play on this. Not free play, but everything spins nice and smooth like it's supposed to. Now we get to start snugging these down. I'm going to add some washers here, so part of that is what I'm doing. I'm going to do one quick dry fit on these bolts, just with the new threads, and then I'm going to take them out, throw some Loctite on here, and re-jam these in. Quick dry fit first, and then I'll throw some Loctite on here. Just make sure everything still feels good as we move forward. And then I think the end goal for today is to clean up this bench and hopefully get that cleared off and get this thing ready to make a roller. Bolt is too long. That's the one I was worried about. I had one that I mixed up and I couldn't remember where one of these went. That was it. transmission feels pretty good. So now, all I had to do is unwind these a little bit, and then we're going to re-snug them down. With some Loctite. I found my good one today, so that's what we will be using. Alright, and there's the transmission after thread repair. So 2 videos, sorry about that. Didn't know until I go to do the final torque and something pops, unfortunately. As much as I try and prep in advance, can't win them all. So thanks for watching, like, comment, subscribe. Primary stuff will probably come next, or I'll get that front cylinder back on because the stud repair worked. All I did was double jam 2 helicoils together and it is locked in. So ready to slap that cylinder on. That'll be next, actually. Catch you guys on the next one.